to the Make Life Rich movement.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited. And I'm not usually this giddy, but because we had our conversation before, I'm just really looking forward to this conversation.
Yay! I've been stalking you for quite some time, probably I'll say the last, I think, year and a half at least. Long story short, everyone, we're going to learn today the ins and the outs of protecting yourself as an artist, musician, producer. I'm assuming podcaster may also sort of fall into this realm of protection, but
Law firm,
Samara
yeah.
is the latte lawyer, and she is going to give us all of the information that you would assume she'd want to gatekeep, but she's not about the gatekeeping. She's actually about giving away as much information as she can because she wants to help as many artists as possible be able to kind of protect their career, their passion, their purpose. And let's keep art for the artists. And you are absolutely keeping art for the artists and keeping the control in their hands with this information. So I, for one, thank you very much, Samara.
Oh, thank you. That's the nicest intro I think I've ever gotten in my entire life. Thank you. That's nice.
So please tell me a little bit about what led you to the law, because we all know lawyers, everyone's got a lawyer friend, and we love our lawyer friends because they're curious and they're smart and they want to help everyone and everything with their knowledge. And I just would love to know where the idea for your law career came from, originated.
Well, that's hilarious because I was like, you said we love our lawyer friends. I was like, I don't know if I have that same feeling on this side with people with me, but I actually wanted to be a lawyer because of Johnny Cochran. I wanted to be a criminal attorney. So I thought and that was since fourth grade. So fourth grade, I was like, I know what I'm gonna do. And I came from a Caribbean household, so I was like, all right, well, it's either lawyer or doctor, and I don't
Yeah.
do blood, so lawyer. And I went to law school. I After actually taking criminal law, I realized that that wasn't really for me. But I really wasn't sure what I was gonna do. Graduated from University of Florida, took my bar, passed the bar the first time, which was nice. And then I was like, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. And I ended up working in personal injury and product liability and medical malpractice, my first job, which is hilarious because remember how I said no blood, and that's all blood and internal organs and just a lot of medical speak and medical stuff. So I meandered my way through a bunch of different firms doing property insurance litigation, commercial litigation. I worked for the state of Florida in the domestic violence unit, and I learned a lot about how the court system works internally. It wasn't the best experience as far as like emotions were concerned, but it was a really good experience because you get to learn the inner workings of how judges react to things and how things get through the court system. And so after that, I was like, let me just start my own firm. I didn't start it in the best way. I did quit without notice. I just said, I'm out in an email. And then I started the firm, my firm. And I've always been interested in music. I'm a fan of all things media. I think I watch movies and TV more than anybody else in the world. And I love a good like soundtrack. I've always been that person. If I hear a song, I'm like, oh, let me try to find it on the internet somewhere so I can put it on my playlist. And then I took a CLE, which is a continuing legal education class, from Gloria Estefan's attorney. And if you're from Miami, you know Gloria Estefan's a big deal. She was in Miami Sound Machine, sorry. And he said you can be an entertainment lawyer from anywhere. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll try. What does it hurt? So I started going out to shows. It doesn't seem like it now, but I'm pretty introverted. So I had to try to get over that, and I was like, "Hey, my name is Samara. I'm an attorney. I'm an entertainment attorney. I'd love to help." And I got my first couple of clients from just pure networking. And then I was on the internet, on social media. Someone said to use Instagram. I'm not the biggest fan of Instagram. Showing my face was something that was really hard for me because I wanted to do transactional work. But I was like, well, I met most of my clients at coffee shops because they didn't like meeting me in the office, and it just was easier to speak with them if they felt like we were on even ground, I guess. And so I was like, oh, let me call myself the latte lawyer. So that's been kind of stuck. And there are people who literally think my name is the latte lawyer and have referred to me as latte. And so that's my cross to bear. But I love what I do. And this year is more of just giving away all the knowledge that I can, because retiring or not, I think it's important for artists to understand how it works because you can get taken advantage of if you don't know the basics of entertainment law. So And then you're nice enough to have me on, so that's why I'm here talking to you today and how I started it from.
Oh my gosh. So I love the fact that you are not only a fan of the majority of the ways in which music is used, programming, movies, like we're interacting with some type of video with music accompanying it rather than being in a car and listening to a song or, maybe sitting at your desk with like your headphones in. Other than that, we're experiencing it either via Instagram, via Netflix, Hulu, the whole nine of the streaming platforms. And, I wonder if when you were in law school, I'm sure it was absolutely a peak of, wow, like this is something broad enough in workload that I could give myself a career in this because of sync licensing and all of that. But was there kind of ever a moment where you thought it might not be a viable niche for you to kind of latch your teeth into with your own firm kind of resting off of building off of this particular like legal niche? Was that ever a thought for you, or were you like,
That
nah,
was
this is it?
definitely a thought for me. Entertainment law is, it can be very expensive. You can make a lot of money from it. You can do very well in it. But I didn't do just entertainment law when I started. I was mostly business law. Doing entertainment law involves a lot more education than I had expected. And all the other areas of law, you just give it to the lawyer and we handle it. So if you have a personal injury claim, we're not going to tell you how personal injury works. We're just like, go to the doctor, give us your medical charts and issues, and then we'll go to court and we need our evidence, and that's it. But in entertainment, I have to spend a lot of my time educating my clients on certain things in order to do my job. And so it became more of me becoming a teacher than a lawyer. And that's kind of where this part grew. So the education component has become a big part of the firm, and the lawyering has become less of a part of the firm because that educational component is key. And that's what's been driving the success, I think, of at least the page and the firm is the education. I didn't think that it was going to work out that way when I started. I thought I was just going to be doing negotiations all day. And it's changed immensely from when I started.
Wow. What do you attribute that to? Or is it kind of just like a phenomenon of it becoming a more popular thing people are putting more of a professional effort into?
I think people are just naturally curious, and when they're encouraged, they can do well. A lot of times, especially if you're working with labels, they don't ask you to be curious. They don't push your curiosity. They're just like, this is how things work. But I think if you really believe that an artist can understand, because I mean, I'm not the smartest person in the world, right? I'm not an Einstein, but I'm definitely smart enough to understand the legal codes when it comes to copyright and trademark and other entertainment issues. You can too. So I think it's the encouragement from the internet that's made artists really be like, well, I can do this too. I can understand how to control my recordings. I can understand how to split my publishing for my writer's share, and I can also understand how to collect my royalties. And so I think that's what's really made artists feel more confident is the encouragement. And I'm always a big fan of encouraging people to learn and do things on their own.
You really are so good at kind of holding an artist's hand through the process, even just via your Instagram. We haven't professionally worked together yet, although, retirement or not, my husband is.
I get that threat a lot for people. They're like,
I
I'll
know.
find you.
I
I'm like,
love it for you
okay.
personally, and we're going to get to that. I actually love it. It's just kind of, I wonder if your fans are a little scared because, there's so much information. There's so many armchair lawyers like on Instagram talking about artistry and how to protect yourself. And, prior to myself starting this podcast or my husband creating his reggaeton music and his sync work, there was never the thought of like, oh man, like we put so much time and effort, our whole heart and soul goes into this. And the thought that like we could, someone could rip it from us or, we could potentially get sued for stuff like these things don't really cross your mind when you're making them because the point of them was always the joy and like just getting what the source is giving you out there for everyone to enjoy and see.
Yeah.
And it was interesting for us to kind of have to turn inwardly on this thing that we had both agreed in our life. We blew our whole lives up so he could focus on music. I could focus on this podcast. I was a 15-year publicist. I'm like trying my best not to do that anymore. So I very much understand you wanting to retire to do something that you feel more called towards because we're evolving. I'm 30, I'm 38. I don't want to do something that isn't like lighting me up with complete joy anymore. We have that right. We worked really hard over these last 10, 15 years to get to this place. So I am very excited to talk to you about the retirement part of things. But I will say that in us having to take a look at the business side of this passion project we've given ourselves, we were scared. And
Yeah.
then looking for people to help us understand what's going on, we got even more scared because there were so many different answers for BMI, ASCAP, this, that, scratch your butt, do this. We're like, what? Do you know what I mean, Samara? Like, we felt so scared. And then lo and behold, I had found that app called like Buy Me a Cup of Coffee, and I was curious what it was. So I typed it into Instagram. And because I'm always looking at sing things from my husband, and I typed in something about coffee, there he popped up. And I was like, ooh, who's this? Clicked on it. I was on your account for 45 minutes. I was like, oh my God, every question we've had that we couldn't find an answer for, we found.
Oh, that's
So that's where
amazing.
my obsession with you grew because you were straightforward. You were like the layman's encyclopedia for the music industry and making sure that your heart and soul doesn't get ripped right from under you because you were too much in the clouds and you're creating and not enough feet on the ground, making sure it goes nowhere and it stays in your house of like music, like what you've
Yeah.
made for yourself. Can you tell me what it feels like to have this weight basically lifted from your clients and transferred to your shoulders to where you're like, ah, I got this. Like, it's okay. We're going to figure this out. Not only am I going to show you how to do this, but this first one is going to be done perfectly. And then you're going to understand everything there is to do this moving forward. Like, what does it feel like to be able to hand over the keys to the house for these artists that came to you in a place of like, just sheer panic, confusion. They don't know what's going on. They've released so many things already because they put the cart in front of the horse, and now they're like, "Oh my God, am I copyrighted? Is it this? Is it that? Or they're gonna steal my stuff?" Like, what does it feel like to just be the little magic wand that like makes everything feel better?
Well, I don't want to paint a picture that everything's all sunshine and rainbows all the time. There's a lot of it can be tumultuous dealing with, copyright, trademark, just entertainment law in general. But when I do work with my clients, and because I'm big on the education part, I always love when I speak with them after we've, closed the deal, we've finished our sound recording agreement, we've finished our split sheet, everything's already been done, the royalties are registered, and they speak to me and they're like, oh, Samara, like for the next time, they're like, Samara, I have a composition here, I did the deal points, I gave them 5%, 5 points on the sound recording side, I am going to give them 20% for publishing, but I'm going to be their publishing admin, and I'm just like, you know the language. We can speak the same language now. So that's what I like. I think once they understand the terminology, talking about the deal is much easier for them because now they're comfortable. It's the same as like reading music. Once you know the notes, you can create your own masterpiece. So I love that feeling. I love that feeling being like, and I make a joke all the time. I was like, you don't need me. And it's not a joke. I mean it because I told you I'm trying to like move on. They're like, no, don't say that. But I do like that part of it. I like that they understand as much as I do.
Giving them autonomy, like full autonomy over like the soup to nuts process of them being an artist now because
Right.
it
I
does.
mean, it's basic points. Every lawyer is going to tell you that they have a checklist. Like that's I made a BMI guide and I was like this is exactly the checklist I use in my firm to have my clients move from BMI to another PRO. Like if you have the checklist, you have the step-by-step thing to do and you understand the language, it's not going to be hard for you.
Yeah.
Usually. I mean, the hard part might be negotiating, but then it's just because you're dealing with people. It's not really the issue of the law itself. It's dealing with another
Yeah.
person and their thoughts and their feelings and their backgrounds.
Yeah. So you mentioned PROs. Can
Yes.
you explain what that is and then go through the various types? I am on the fence. I've heard there's three, maybe four, so I'm not really sure. I would love for you to clarify.
Yeah, there's more than actually there's more than four, but there's two main ones that everybody knows. So a PRO is a performance rights organization, and well, actually, I have to back up a little bit. When you have a song, there are two copyrights in your song. That's important to note. So even though you have one song, there's two things that are protected in your song. There's the composition, which is the melody and the lyrics. So if you are a composer and you've ever written music, it's what you see on paper. And there's the person actually performing and recording that song, right? That's the sound recording side of the copyright. The PRO, which is the Performance Rights Organization, collects on public performance of your composition. So BMI and ASCAP are the two major players in this in the US. If you are outside of the US, there's something called a PRS, which is a Performance Rights Society. So if you're in Canada, that's SOCAN. I believe Germany is GEMA. And then in South Africa, I want to say it's Sacro, but don't put that on me because I think I got that one wrong. But I know that there's one in South Africa that has like another abbreviation for it. So, and then there's GMR, which is another one in the US. There's CSAC, which was actually a European one, but it collects for the US. And there's many other new ones that have come out that are PROs. And they collect your what people call publishing and your writer share on your composition. So you have options, but mainly if you are a starting artist, you're going to either choose between BMI or ASCAP. That's where
And you
you're
can
going to
only
start.
choose one.
Well, this is my joke. It's a hot take, I guess. But if you're a writer, you have to be monogamous. So you can only choose one. So, but if you're a publisher, then you can register with as many as you want. So you're monogamous if you're a writer. You are polyamorous if you are a publisher. So you
Okay.
can be with BMI, CSAC, GMR, all of them if you want to, because a publisher represents the writer, but a writer is the one creating the art, and they can only be with one at a time.
Okay. Now, public consumption of your music, could that be a concert? Could that be your music playing in the CVS while you're going to like the drugstore? Is that like you playing on the radio? What qualifies as like a public performance?
First of all, great question. And also, you gave very good examples. Those are all examples of public
Oh,
performance. So, I
thank
think you know
you.
your stuff more than you're saying, but okay. So, if you do hear your song in a public place, restaurant, CVS, anywhere like that, they collect it. See, either your PRO is going to collect that money. That's a public performance. If you perform on stage, they collect that performance money, but you have to register separately for something called, if you're on BMI, it's BMI Live. And if you're with ASCAP, it's called ASCAP on stage. And
Okay.
so you have to actually give them your set list of what you
Mm,
performed in order for them to actually collect on your behalf for that public performance. And that's going to be in a live venue. And even more niche, that live venue has to actually be allowed to collect for that.
oh,
So that could be an issue. So if you're with BMI, make sure to check on BMI Live, and then if you're with ASCAP, check with ASCAP on stage. And if you haven't registered, register with them like yesterday. That's important because you're losing out on money there. And then performance on the radio, I'm glad that you brought that up. That is a public performance. But the weird part is that if you have someone playing on the radio in the US, the person performing on the radio, the actual vocalist, doesn't get money. The person that gets paid is the publisher and the writer. So your PROs do pay you for broadcast, so AM, FM performances.
interesting.
And then if it's
Okay.
streaming internet, right,
Yeah.
then that would be your sound exchange, and that'd be a digital performance royalty, which is on another side that doesn't have anything to do with your PRO.
Okay, regarding the digital side, I'm
Yes.
asking all the questions that I've been getting nothing but ambiguous answers to, and I'm tired of it. So we're coming
Oh,
to
let's
you.
do it. I'm better with questions. When someone asked me one time, like, so how's your personal life? I was like on a panel, and I was just like, I just stared. I didn't know what to say. I was like,
Yeah, I would be like, did you inquire if I was an introvert before you compiled
well,
these
not only
questions?
that, but I was like, I don't. At that time, I had less of a personal life. Like I wasn't even going out. I was just working on the business. So I was like, I don't know how to answer that question because I don't have one right now. So yeah.
No. Well, you're gonna now because you're retiring. So high five to that. So I would love to discuss. We see the virality of certain sounds or songs on Instagram, and everyone's question is always, are the people who've created this song originally not only getting paid for their official sound that they put up on Instagram, they uploaded themselves. I guess that's part one of the question. Part two, do they get paid for me taking that song, uploading it as my original audio, and then from there it goes?
Okay, both good questions. So
Thank you.
automatically no, but there's a way to make sure that you do collect.
Oh.
So if you are uploading, because I know a lot of people, when they put their audio, they'll just put original audio on there. But what sort of a trick to get around that is to, if you have your own ISRC codes, which is something you can purchase for $95 and you can generate up to 100,000 every year on your own. Yeah, that's what the labels do. And like I know if you use DistroKid, they charge you $50 every time to do that. So
Yeah.
save yourself the money and do it. But if you have your own ISRC codes, you embed the ISRC code on your file that you're going to upload into any of the social media sites. And then you take that ISRC code and you go to Sound Exchange. Hopefully you're already registered with them. And you make sure that you register that sound recording with Sound Exchange. So now that every time it's played, it's going to start collecting money for it. Because people don't choose to hear the song, they're just clicking on the video, right? So that would be qualified enough to get a non-interactive stream and you'd be able to get paid from Sound Exchange on that side.
Wow. Guys, she just dropped such a knowledge bomb of how you can pad your pockets with some fat stacks. If you understand
I wouldn't
virality,
say they were fat stacks, it's still royalty. So maybe like $100
slow.
every quarter.
But I wonder if there is like, the kids that have figured out how to hack TikTok and Instagram
Yes.
for million view videos, if they've also got the wherewithal to create these original sounds, register them, do their own thing, it's like they kind of are giving themselves not only the boost on the back end of YouTube, but if you're getting paid on the front end with the royalties of that sound, that to me, I think is where social media could get a little smarter and give artists a great way too to kind of bring in an additional stream of income because they do have to rely so heavily on Instagram. Is that something they have to think about?
No, they're a business. They're
Artists?
not trying to pay you. So even if they could, right? They're not gonna go out of their way to help you learn how to make. Are we okay?
Sorry, yeah, my computer just said it's about, sorry, 1 second. Where are we at? Oh, 2:22. My computer became unplugged somehow and it said it was about to turn off. I'm like, what's happening? Okay. I was like, everything's going dark. What's happening? All right, so sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay,
No, don't.
so
No apologies. Like, is everything fine? So
yeah, my face got concerned quickly. I was like, oh
I
my
saw
God, it's about
that.
to
That's
turn
why I
off.
got concerned.
Thank you. Okay. All right, ready? Five, four, three, two, one.
Do you want to
Okay,
ask the
so
question again?
yes,
Okay.
we'll just jump back in again. Is there a purpose for an artist to focus on original audios being uploaded to Instagram when they are trying to promote their work? Or is that something that would kind of just be covered under the other PROs?
So Instagram as a social media platform, just like YouTube with as a video streaming service slash social media platform in its own sense, right? They thrive off of ads. That's how it works. So for them, it makes sense to monetize on Instagram because I know that you can actually. I've never set that part up for myself personally, but I know that you can set it up so that when they get advertising dollars, they can stream some of it to you if your song or your video does go viral, right? But on the back end, think of it for those of you who sync as syncing yourself. So if you're trying to if you have a viral video and you have an audio that also is going to go viral on that same viral video, people are going to start using that audio. So that's where you can start manipulating the system in a way that works best for you. So you're not going to be able to necessarily collect with PROs, but you can register that sound recording. So even if it's just spoken word like me and you talking right now, you put an ISRC on that audio, right? You register it with Sound Exchange. Now Sound Exchange is tracking those plays. So people who have audiobooks, comedians, those people are the kind of people that do performing spoken word. They can have the ISRC, you're tracking, and then you'll get a quarterly check from Sound Exchange. So that's one way to do it. On top of that, you can monetize because you're already getting virality on that particular platform. And then the other way that everybody knows to sort of diversify your income stream is because now you are viral You are able to sell your products, let people know how to become viral. That's like another gateway, using your stand store, your link tree, or whatever it is to get people interested in, paying for you. Or you can even do a private concert if you want to. Like, there's other ways that you can use that virality and sort of like know how to navigate that. So those people who are doing really well money wise know that it's not just the viral video that's getting them there. They have to then know how to navigate those streams of income from that viral video. And one way is to register your song, your audio with Sound Exchange in order to then collect it and then start monetizing on it.
There are layers. There are many layers to this industry in this game.
There
Holy moly.
There are, and someone said this earlier. They're like, a record label isn't really a music company; it's a distribution company. So they're there to know how to take your product, which is your music, and I don't like to use the word product for your art, but to take something that is commercially viable and then figure out all the different ways to go ahead and monetize it. So they already know to go and collect on Sound Exchange. They already know to make sure to collect with your PRO. They already probably have your monetization turned on for your social media platforms, and then they move that from there to being able to ticket and do merch. So these are things that other artists should also have ready to go to. So you want to make sure you're set up with those things. I hope I'm not throwing too much out at everyone. I know
No,
it's a
no,
lot
no.
of stuff.
This is great.
But
This
okay.
is great. I wanted to try to find a way to highlight your expertise for both like traditional musicians and then what, we now seem to have a really beautiful influx of, or maybe it's just the first time we're starting to see that this is, a genre within the music industry, but sync. I feel like sync is really blown up, or at the very least, they've started using Instagram, syncers. And I would love for you to talk about what sync is. I think if you don't know anyone that makes sync, you may never have heard that term before or what the
Oh no,
purpose of it
I
is.
was a
But
speaker at Shades of Sync, so I'm very familiar. Like I was the
beautiful.
person who was a panelist there. I love sync. I think that's the best way to make money for an artist. And I
Yeah.
know that I think we both know Clint. So
Yeah. It
that's how
seems,
I knew about Sync forever, but I started pushing more into it because I was on his podcast and I had done some work for
yeah.
them and for some other syncers out there. So yeah, very familiar.
It's really cool because I don't want to veer too far off topic, but because my husband is a musician and because I do podcasting, I've always been a trend forecaster because of PR, marketing, sales,
Of course,
just
yeah.
paying attention to where we're headed. And because we're kind of on the artistry side of this endeavor, I've noticed there's a lot of shit eating for actors, for musicians, for writers. We're all being used and abused and not really compensated. And I think the burst of the internet around 2008 and then smartphones just gave us a 15-year incubation period of all of us artists just crafting, like chiseling it down, getting it down to a science, accumulating all these other skill sets like you with your law career. But there comes a moment, I think, where we're at the very beginning of what is going to be a cascading waterfall of a ton of actors, artists, writers telling all the conglomerates to stuff it because there's so much capability of us doing things on our own. And with acting, I think everyone thought the streaming platforms were going to be that level up for actors, but I think it only further muddied the waters. I think Spotify was that tool for musicians. That's now been the thing that's muddied the waters. And I think for both acting and the music world, there's going to be this time frame where the favor of what the actors are doing is going to dictate, and the musicians is going to dictate the future of how business is run within these culture spheres. And I wonder if you would agree that sync seems to be the space where creators, musicians, producers are able to take back full control and just say, "Oh, take it or leave it. There's somebody else."
I think sync gives them more control. I wouldn't say
Yeah,
full control because you're still providing a product in a
product.
sense to a commercial entity, whether that be a production company or an advertising agency or directly to the manufacturer of a product or the provider of a service. I will say that sync is a place where they respect the artist more because most people on that side aren't labels, right? So they're really leaning on your creative expertise, so you're taken more seriously. Your creative contributions are really revered, which I like. The payment is they're used to working on like, if I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but net 30, which means like you're gonna be paid within 30 business days, or net 60 or net 90. Whereas compared with I've done placements for producers where I've had to hound labels, and I will not say the names of those labels, but there's only three major ones, so you can figure out who it is. Where I've had to go ahead and say like it's been a year. Where's my client's $1,000? And we have to keep going and going and going and following up and going to the accounting department and going to the A&R person, um, to get the money. And it's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
so, and a lot of times the clients that I have, I only help them throughout the negotiation process. Like that's it. And I've done the contract and my job is done. And so I'm like, I'll tell you where to go, but it's on you to like collect. With Sync, I've never had the issue. With Sync,
Wow.
I've done advertisements, and they're like, okay, we need this person. This is the brief. The brief is what they're looking for the music to go with a certain visual image, or they might even give you the visuals that they want. So
Mm-hmm.
for that particular scene in the movie, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we need this type of score, we need this type of feeling, this needs to be energetic, or this needs to be about friendship, or this needs to be about love. It's gonna be, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, however long. And we're going to be playing it this amount of times. It's going to be streaming. Like they let you know, like there's no
Mm-hmm.
hiding anything from you. So I agree with you. I prefer sync because you get paid. And also on the back end, when you get your song synced, I mean, I know Lizzo is controversial because of all the things that are happening with her. But as an example of the music, when her song got played, uh, Good as Hell was a song. It was actually on a Netflix show, a Netflix movie 2 years before. And then it got all of this traction from the movie, and that ended up getting her popular on TikTok, and then that ended up getting her, charted. So I think that's a really good way to get exposed to many audiences, especially a Netflix movie, because everyone's internationally is can watch it. Like you don't have to be
Mm-hmm.
an American person to watch a Japanese show. I'm currently watching not a great one now, but I'm watching it. It's called House of Ninjas. I think it might be Korean. Are you watching it?
We tried the first episode, and we just start things too late at night and then we fall asleep. So we're like, we need to give this a concerted effort during the
I'm on
daytime.
episode 4, and I'm trying to give it the best effort, and it's just not
Oh
working
no.
out. But regardless, yeah. So I think sync. I agree with you completely. I think it's more business aligned. It's
Hmm.
it's a streamlined process, and the best part of it is, and this is why I'm like pushing people who do sync. I'm like, you can have a 2-page agreement. Once you know how to understand the 2-page agreement and say like, this is the territory, this is where it's going to be streamed, this is exclusive or non-exclusive. It's going to be a term of 4 months because it's going to be on an advertising campaign for 4 months, or it's going to be 3 months, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Now you can just go ahead and advocate for yourself. You don't need an attorney to do that because you understand the language of sync. So I'm on board for sync. I love it. I think it's great.
Good. Good, good, good. Because if you, well, I know how you feel about it, so that's why I asked. But
Yeah.
it's important to hear it from a professional and especially a legal professional because I think there's just so much evidence, non-evidence based opinions that a lot of people are espousing on the internet. And, you have to, really trust who you're receiving information from, even if it just is a passion craft that you're working, like crafting and doing all the fun things with, but you're not going to make it a business. It's
But you
still
never
important to
know.
understand that,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I'm sorry to cut you off, but you never
no,
know.
no.
Like, a lot of people are hobbyists, and those hobbies turn into, look at Etsy. Like, so many people are like, I'm passionate about woodworking, I'm passionate about pottery, and now they have a business, right? So I think we
Hmm.
need to be in an era where the thing that you're passionately pursuing should also pay you.
Yes.
So I'm about that. When you said that, I was like, I hear you, but your hobby could turn into your like
Get paid.
whole life. Yeah, exactly. That could end up being the thing that's able to like get you what you want and help you live your dreams. So
Yeah. So I have stalked you thoroughly for, as I said, a year and a half now, and I love so very much the way in which I love the nitty gritty details that no one discusses. And for me, the one thing that like I smiled ear to ear watching this interview when you said this last year, you said create a Gmail that says like something team. Even if as a solopreneur, you're the one reaching out to get these agreements because you're the producer, or you're the one reaching out to this sync placement person or manager because like you're making your own sync, please give us the advice of how you would have someone who is an individual represent themselves without having to hire a team in the process of communicating back and forth and trying to get a gig, because this was gold to me and I just love that you suggested it because people think it's got to be complicated and it doesn't.
It doesn't. So my caveat, the legal antennas went up on this one. It wouldn't be advice because I'm not your lawyer. Even
Yes.
though, love you guys, think you're all great on the
We'll
podcast.
we'll put a thorough disclaimer at the
I
beginning and the end of this
I can do the
verbally.
disclaimer right now. This is just legal education
Beautiful.
information. But if, as
Beautiful.
a hypo, because we did that a lot, so a hypothetical in law school, if I was presented with a potential client and they were saying, hey, Samara, I am creating my business. So the first thing that I would say is like, okay, did you create an LLC or a corporation? My preference is an LLC, usually because there's not as many statutory or legal requirements for you to follow with an LLC. So did you create that? Did you get your EIN? Did you do your BOI reporting requirement? That's a new requirement that we have on the books that started this year. Took effect this year. So you have to make sure to file with the federal government, specifically FinCEN, which is the Financial Crime Enforcement Network, to make sure that you let them know who owns your business if you own 25% or more of the business. If you don't, there are penalties, including a $500 a day fine, up to $10,000, and up to 2 years in jail, which no one needs to go to jail for paperwork. And it's really easy to do. I've done free courses on that. Actually, I have a free course coming up on the BOI reporting requirement.
Oh, yay.
So
We'll
if
put it in the
people
show
need help,
notes.
yeah, if people need help with that, it's going to be on March 4th. There's
Okay.
only 35 spots. I think about 10 are already taken. So that's a thing. And then from there, I'm like, all right, now we need to set up your automations and your business plan. Which for me, I've fumbled through this myself, but being someone who's fumbled through it before, I can tell you how to do this. So my preference is for you to have a website, a domain name. So then you can put like team at iamthedopestartistever.com, right? And then from there, you can either hire someone from Fiverr or you can put that your manager, you don't have to say the name, is reaching out. Like, I'm the manager for so and so. I'm reaching out for a gig at your establishment. This is their pitch deck. This is how many people they've had at their last show. This is how much merch they're selling. This is their number on Instagram and all the other social media sites. We would not be able to. We prefer to have upfront compensation and back end at the bar, and we can guarantee at least 100 people at your venue. Looking forward to hearing back from you. And then this is the important part: manager. Just put manager for blah blah blah, and then sign off, and then they'll respond and you'll get the email more than likely. And you can go ahead and say, okay, respond. And then you can respond yourself, or sometimes you need some help because you want to sound a little bit more professional and dispassionate. You put that response in ChatGPT, you edit it out a little bit, and you respond and you get what you need. So there's ways to make sure that you're professional, and people take things a little more seriously sometimes when you do have a team. Like, I know the response that my artist has gotten before they had a lawyer, right? And then when they've spoken themselves can be a little bit different. And the last thing I will say, also, just be professional. Even if I don't want you to not be yourself, but I know people tend to be a little less formal with their friends. These people are not your friends; they're business people. So if you're just like, "Yo, what's up? I'd like to be at your show," they're not gonna take you as seriously as someone who said like, "Hello" or "Good morning" or whatever it is, and then just say exactly what you're looking to do.
Beautiful advice. I would tell people to do the same thing for like a publicist. If they couldn't afford to work with me, or I was like, listen, I'm not going to be a good fit for you, but do XYZ, and they're going to write right back. And they always do. It's the immediacy of position when you have someone working for you that they're like, oh, this person's important. They've got a team. They're successful.
Yeah.
Run with that, guys. Do not feel ashamed or afraid. You're walking the walk until you can talk the talk because you've got the team, because you built your business up, because you started from the bottom. And now you're here. We'll give Drake a little love. Although I don't love Drake anymore, but that's another topic. So,
And to add on to exactly what you just said, the power of positioning. So I always tell people, like, you won't get something if you don't ask, number one. So, and number two, like, yeah, having a team member is helpful. Even a manager, somebody who is working on your behalf is helpful. Or if you really do want someone and you don't want to be the person, go on Fiverr. Have somebody just be assistant at
Mm-hmm.
whatever venue it is, and they can help you out, and you can give them a template email to send
Mm-hmm.
out and respond to. So, and they can cost anywhere between like $5 to $10 per
Beautiful.
project, you know? So there are ways to get around it and make it work. You made a really good point, and I just wanted to book in
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I know we had a hard stop at 2:30, so I will rip two questions quickly and then we'll get you out of here.
Okay. Well, it's not that. Let me see.
Are
Yeah,
you sure?
I can give it like 2:35.
Okay, perfect. We'll
Okay.
we'll knock them out. All right. So, what can a producer do to protect themselves when they are, I guess maybe the easiest scenario would be that maybe they're sending some tracks to another artist that like they're trying to start working with, just like, hey, wanted you to hear my beats. Let me know what you think about it. Like maybe we can work together. And then lo and behold, like 3 months later, they like hear their shit on YouTube and they're like, oh my God, they stole it. How do they protect themselves from that? And what is kind of the best route for setting yourself up for a productive and like equal working relationship amongst other artists, like producer to rapper, writer, creator, all of that?
Your second question is a hard question because you're using the word fair,
Is
and
it?
fair is in the eye of the beholder. So I'm gonna try my best to answer that quickly, but I know the first one I
Okay.
can answer easily. So if you want to protect yourself as a producer, and I work with a lot of producers, the first thing that you need to do is, and I've seen this on the internet that I think is completely wrong, but you need to make sure to register your song. When you create a song, you do own the copyright to your song. That's absolutely true.
Oh,
As soon as
cool.
you write it, and it's original, so what the legal term is, it's original in a fixed medium of expression and tangible, you're good. But if you want to actually keep others from using it, you have to register it. So there's something called GRAM, which is the Group Registration of Album Music. What I would tell the producer to do is take 20 of those songs that they plan on like shopping to other people and register it with Graham, but they have to publish it first. So here's the steps. I'm a producer. I want to pitch a couple of songs. I know the 20 beats that I think are going to be great to pitch. I'm going to take those 20 songs. I'm going to publish it on a private link on, let's say, SoundCloud. So now it's published because it's available to the general public. Okay. Then I'm going to go on to Graham, which is the group registration of album music. I'm going to choose two registrations, two applications. I'm going to do the registration for, remember the two sides? The sound recording side and for the composition. And then you're going to go ahead and give MP3s of those songs to the copyright office. Now, instead of paying $130 for one song, you're paying $130 for 40 things, right? You're paying for 20 sound recordings and you're paying for 20 musical works, which is 20 songs altogether. Then you want to go ahead and put an ISRC code embedded on those tracks, which if you registered your own ISRC code, you can do that. And now it's trackable. So if someone did use your music, let's say they ripped your beat and they copied and they used it and they used the same file, hopefully that's trackable, right? So you do that and you're able to now you can take the songs off of SoundCloud or SoundCloud on this part, and now it's just private, right? Put it on your disco, share it with other people, and then let them know in the email that like this has an ISRC code, this has been copyright registered, to let them know that you know not to take your stuff. If they do that, right, after you send that email, then you go to what we call a DMCA custodian. So that's the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So like let's say you hear it on YouTube. You send them an email saying like, hey, this was my song. Here's the email I sent them letting them know that this was my beat. They've used it. You need to take it down because they're infringing on my work. You're covered.
Thank you. That was the quickest, most thorough answer, and it made the most sense, I think, because it was truncated and it wrapped it all together.
I'm
So
trying to
beautiful. All
checklist
right, my final
everything.
question. Samara,
Yes.
how do you make your life rich?
Oh my gosh. This is like the same question when someone said about my
Is your
personal life.
personal life? I'm sorry I
uh,
did that to you.
no, it's fine. It's fine. How do I make my life rich? I think this year is about collaborating. I've been having the best time collaborating with other artists to teach them what I know and sort of merge the legal side and the artistic side. They're not separate, they should be merged. So I've been enjoying having these conversations, letting people know that you can empower yourself with art, like with art and the legalities of it, so you can just enjoy the whole process. So I think that's the best part. That's what's been making my life richer this year.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. And we need you. We need more people like you to protect artists and keep art. Art is all we have left in our culture, and it's so important that we do everything we can to preserve it. You have so much work that I'm going to have everyone take a look at in the show notes. But if you loved anything you heard in this conversation, guys, please go follow Samara on her Instagram. You also want to buy her guide that she has created called Break Up with BMI, a writer's guide to leaving BMI for another PRO. If you have learned anything in this conversation and it really touched you or it's helped you skyrocket your career, please leave a comment in the show notes so we can let Samara know, because she is working so hard out here to make sure that everyone has everything they need to keep their dream alive and to keep putting out all the music that brings us joy and keep the soundtracking on all the shows we fall asleep to at night so happily. Samara, thank you so much for being a beautiful part of this entertainment chain, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. You've been a joy of a host. I see why people love your podcast so much. And yeah, thank you for your time and your energy and for what you do too. You're out here providing a really valuable resource to everybody, not just artists.
Thank you.
All right, have a